So we were talking about you, right? So go ahead. More often than not, who ends things?
It'll usually be me, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, but I hate confrontation, so it's kind of like, yeah.
It's kind of like what? Like you do it over text, or
I think it's
ghost?
I think it's more respectful to do it to their face, to tell them that you want to end things. I think so.
I
no
think
one wants to get broken up with over the phone.
Well, I mean, if it's a short period of time, like 9 months, that's a text.
9 months?
9 months is a text.
It's like a pregnancy.
Maybe like a year and a half, then you get a phone call.
A year and a half?
2 years
Wow.
maybe in person.
I disagree, personally.
What?
Yeah, no.
So like...
Yeah, hard disagree.
No.
Nah, it's got to be text. Well, I mean, look,
text?
you guys can do it however you want. I know, speaking for myself, I would much rather, even if I've been seeing a girl for like 9 months, just send me a text. I don't need the theatrics and the...
Well, you must not really like her then.
Yeah, it depends on the individual.
Nah,
Why have you been with them for 9 months if you're okay with being broken up over the phone?
Well, I don't
because
follow
it sounds
the
like
logic
you're wasting
there,
your...
9 months is an
closer to the mic.
9 months is an incredibly short time to be in a relationship with anybody. Like, I'm actually quite shocked at how dysfunctional this panel is and how nobody can maintain long-term relationships. Brian, I was wondering how old you were, because for men it's different,
I'm 33.
You're 33. Okay. Yeah, I mean that's okay. Like, let me explain, right? So I'm actually pregnant with a girl right now. So I'm having a daughter, and being here is like terrifying because I have to see like the world that my daughter is going to come up in, and I don't want like what you guys are experiencing. I would never want or wish for my daughter. I don't want my daughter to be used by like some guy in high school or like some guy in college, because that's what's going on, because we're talking about dating and situationships. We're giving our bodies to these men, and I don't want her to be used by some guy who could care less. I want her to be able to exercise discernment and have better options. And we can talk about data and statistics along the way. You guys were talking about how one of you was saying that men leave more. So right now, like Pew Research data just dropped, where 60% of men from 18 to 29, it's not even like they want to date anymore. They're single and they're not looking. So we're dealing with a very small pool of men, which means we need to be wise. But I'm sorry, but I don't think any of y'all know how men work. Because the way that I'm hearing you guys talk, it's like two different worlds. From our perspective, it makes a lot of sense. But we have Brian here, we have the cameraman. Men operate on a completely different spectrum when it comes to relationships. And I'm not an expert, but I do have a YouTube channel. I interview wives on purpose that have been married 20, 30 years, much longer than myself. And I do that so women can get an education, because a lot of this stuff, like, this is just sad and heartbreaking to me. I want nothing but love and hopefully children, if you guys want children too. But it's like a problem. So there's another thing that's coming up too, right? So 45% of women right now from ages, I want to say 25 to 44, they're projected to be single by 2030. Like, we're not dating well. This is scary. I'm concerned for my child. So, I mean, I know not to be all philosophical, but I'm like, holy crap. Also, there's something wrong with California. Like, I highly recommend moving. Like, leave this place.
I agree. I think California guys are possibly not where it's at, but I also find your statement incredibly condescending. Because you just said that we are dysfunctional for not being able to commit to long-term relationships, but then also just said that men are not looking for relationships. And I completely agree. So how is it dysfunctional to not commit yourself and be in a long-term relationship when you can agree that that's also not what guys are looking for, and it's okay to not want to waste your time?
And I just wanted to hop in and say one thing. I think it was a really broad statement for you to say that everyone was dysfunctional. I personally am in a 2-year or about to be 2-year long committed relationship. I have a ring, and I think that it's a broad statement to kind of like put that out, and it was condescending. I think that's not only are guys, not as much looking for relationships these days, but I don't think girls are either.
Right. So like that pool of men that I'm talking about, like the 60%, like those are nihilistic men, right? So then we're talking about like the 40% of men that are looking for relationships, and that's like for the Pew Research data. The other perspective is like where it stands right now, only 1 in 3 and 1 in 5 men is even having sex in the first place.
I'm
So,
sorry,
like,
is
we're
this in
dealing-
America? Like,
Yes, this is in America.
Okay, so all
like
of
I can
America.
show this all to you. Like if you guys get curious, because I just like to educate women, because I want you guys to live full lives. That I would assume for a lot of women, you guys are looking for this romantic story, this kind of situation where you get to have a man to rely on and you get to have children with him. I'm happy to share all this stuff
Do
with
they?
you guys.
Why don't we ask them? Do you? What do you guys want?
I absolutely do. One day I want the white fence and a husband who comes home, makes most of the money in our house. I don't think I'll ever have a time in my life where I'm not working. I'm a workaholic, but I one day want to be a
hold
mom.
on, just a
Eva
sec.
Krug super chatted $99.99. Pregnant lady is so 100% correct. Mind blown. I've been waiting so long for someone to say this. All the women on this show are dysfunctional. This is part of the reason I'm 31 and single and waiting it out for the one to show up who is critical and uses data.
Well, like, okay, to be fair, like, it's not necessarily y'all's fault, and the chat's gonna get mad because this is like a predominantly male audience. I don't think our moms are teaching us how to get men that we are attracted to and how to keep them, and I think that that is a huge issue. Like, what did your mothers teach you about dating?
I feel like, in my perspective, I grew up with a single dad who raised me, and I think that is part of the reason why I am in a good relationship and why I kind of know that there are roles in a relationship, and I'm more on the traditional side, and I think that's why I've been able to secure someone who has a really good job, someone who takes care of me, someone who is all about me, you know what I mean? And I do think that I was taught at a young age by my single dad how to be a good girlfriend, because he was maybe so bitter about my mom. So I do understand kind of where you're coming from. I just was trying to say maybe it was a broad statement at first.
Yeah, I made a general statement. Like,
Yeah.
here's the thing. What's the definition of a functional relationship? The definition of a functional relationship is one where both of your needs are getting met. I'm not hearing a lot of that from you guys. And that's, so if it's not functional, I mean, you could call it neutral, or you could say, like, and you could argue that it might be dysfunctional. But you guys are all very young. Like, you said you're 20, you said you're 18. Like, I don't expect y'all to know it. But if you guys don't figure out how men are, like, you're gonna get, like, ran up on hard. And then you're gonna have, like, this darkness in your heart. And you're just gonna not want to deal with men at all. And that happens a lot. Like, I'm 28, I'm not old, okay? But, like, you guys probably do think I'm old. But that's really concerning. Like, have you ever seen women on the other side? They're, like, miserable at your family functions and alone.
I want to say, I still think you're being quite condescending, because we said we have not been in a long-term relationship does not mean we don't know what we want, and we don't know what a good relationship looks like.
Vegan Cheeks
Hold on just a sec,
donated
guys.
$100.
Saved by the bell.
Ladies on the panel, what Allie is saying is only condescending to you because you guys lack the knowledge of life that she has experienced.
Can we pull
She's
up?
trying to help you listen to her. You won't get the white picket fence with a hubby with that entitled attitude.
Okay, cheeks.
That's
Well-
just how they are.
Apparently he missed the part where you said you were a
you said
workaholic.
you were in, did you say you were in a relationship?
No.
Okay,
No,
how old are you?
I'm single. I'm 18.
You're 18. Yeah, that's to be expected. I would expect you to be single when you're 18, but I would very much urge and encourage you guys to try to understand the opposite sex better, because if you don't get married by 30, it's very unlikely that you will be married past that. And I mean, you could look at it as a perspective of, like, aging and options, but it also comes down to, I don't know. I think there's also personality differences. I just think it's unlikely that if you're waiting that long to get married, it might not be a priority for you. And not every woman wants to get married, but I would say that that's probably the minority of women, but we're being convinced that that's the majority of women right now. And I'm not sure that that's helpful, right? So, like, I would just look past at how my words make you feel, because at the end of the day, I'm going to give birth to a girl. She's going to be a woman. This is just, like, not what I would want for her. You know what I mean? Because it's not like,
What isn't what you would want for her? Waiting for a good guy to come along to commit to, or is your advice hop into a relationship as young as you can to secure a man?
I wouldn't say hop into a relationship, like, as young as you can, because most women are, like, honestly the youngest I've seen a woman be aware of, like, herself and romance is 24, and to know what she wants fully and to know herself, unless you're growing up in a 2-parent traditional religious household. So I wouldn't, like, necessarily send up in this world, like, send off my daughter to get married at 18, unless that was her personality type, to where she just always wanted long-term relationships, and that's, like, how she is, right? So, but I would encourage my daughter to get married. I think a lot of women find fulfillment in marriage and children, but it has to be done in a healthy context. Like, I'm kind of confused at why you're upset with me.
I'm not upset. I had an issue with your initial statement. I fully agree. I think that marriage is a serious source of fulfillment, and, you know, two-parent households are what makes the world a better place. You came out and said that we are dysfunctional because we are not in relationships, and then you made it seem like because I'm 18 not in a relationship, I'm never going to get married.
No, that's that. I'm not trying to be mean. Like, that's like projection. That's not what I said.
I'm not worried about you being mean. It was your statement. It just didn't make sense.
Right. Okay. So
fully disagreed.
You can disagree, right? But I'm not saying that if you don't get married at 18 that you'll never get married. That's not the statement that I made at all. Right? Like, you're making a different argument that wasn't said. I said that it's dysfunctional to let men use your bodies and to be waiting for him for 2 years. I'm not saying that you did. But most women are out there, right? Because we want these guys to like us. Like,
so then let's say most women, not you guys.
That's what you're inferring, though. I do.
No, well, you're in a 2-year relationship, so we're not even really talking about you. You figured something out. You grew up with a single dad.
But does that mean that they haven't figured anything out? What I'm saying, though, is I understand that you're not necessarily saying it to them, but you are inferring it with what you're saying. So I do kind of get...
As you're staring at us and saying, you guys, and you haven't done this, and you haven't done that.
Right. Well, or you could just, like, take it with grace.
Hold on. What? Go ahead.
It was just, like, the fact that, you know, we're pretty young, and we're talking about how we haven't... Like, our longest relationship is, like, 2 years, 1.5 years, and you're saying, like, I'm very, like, terrified that you guys can't, like, hold down a, you know, long-term relationship. It's like, we're pretty young. We shouldn't really be in, like, such long-term relationships at this age, and just the way you're just saying, like, you know, I'm worried for my daughter because this is the future she lives in. But it's like, if you're so worried about your daughter, like, wouldn't you be able to teach her how to, you know, like, do what you want her to do? And because
it's not about what I want her to do.
Okay, but you did say what you wanted her to do. It's like you wanted her to, like, you know, kind of, you know, have a fulfilling life, and, like, that's true. But, like, yeah, it's just like I lost my train of thought.
No, I got it. I can explain, right? Okay, so like, before the show, we're talking about dating apps. Some of you ladies are on Tinder. Some of you ladies are on Hinge. I actually think Hinge is pretty good. Hinge is pretty cute. I've seen a lot of relationships come off of Hinge. But when we're talking about Tinder, and we're already complaining about the small pool of men that we're having issues with, like, if you are a man with malicious intent, or if you are a man who, you know, like, let's say he has a proclivity towards sociopathy or narcissism, and he's attractive, he's going to be using Tinder in order to date you guys. Like, why would you be on these apps? Like, what part of that sounds healthy? Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, I'm confused.
I just think, like, we're on, like, different life stages, because, like, with me, like, yeah, like, dating, it would, like, add some, like, you know, fun to my life. But, like, for you, it's like, you know, you're, like, settling down. But I feel like when you're younger, like my age and, like, everyone age here, it's like, I'm not here to, like, settle down at my age. Like, I'm not trying to sleep around. I'm not trying to whatever. But it's like, you know, it's like to have, like, somebody to kind of rely on, not someone to be like, oh, like, have my babies. Like, I'm not at that age yet. I'm at, like, a different stage. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just looking for something different right now. And, like, I'm, like, focusing on my career. I'm focusing on, like, school. Like, I'm not really focused on, like, a husband. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. So, like, but you're saying dating, and a lot of women use the word dating as a euphemism. Like, when we talk about situationships, it's often like we're talking about unprotected sex. Like, we live in a world that has hormonal birth control. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying, like, you guys don't have to say anything that you're doing behind the scenes, but, you know, if we're just dating men and we're not necessarily, like, giving our bodies to them, or we're getting to know them, like, that's amazing and that's awesome. But I don't think that that's what most women are doing. And also, I talk to women every day. Like, that's what I do. I have a YouTube channel with 145,000 subscribers. My female audience is growing, and it's just because, like, I really believe in love. But if we set really bad habits by the time we're 30, those are just really hard to break. Your brain is more malleable the closer 25 years old and younger. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, like, take your time and date, but I wouldn't recommend just, like, freely giving your body to men. It doesn't make any sense. And the men that are looking for your body to be freely given to them, they're going to be on Tinder.